Okay, I'll put that back into flight mode. Rotors will start speeding up. If you're wondering what this big red one is here, the rotor brake, you have to wait for the RPM to get slower and slower and slower. Then you pull the rotor brake right down here and that just stops the blades. Whoa. Whoa, 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 what are we doing? It's just going on its own. Never touch the thing. Get rid of that. That was weird. Okay. Start increasing. Here we go. Lift up the collective. That's the handbrake thing down there. I think we're going to go to Wales. Or should we go back down the Wirral Peninsula back towards Liverpool? Nah, let's go and do some flying in North Wales. Sounds good to me. This involves crossing the water in a single engine helicopter. Oh, there we go. Let the speed build up. Feels good. We've got Carnarvon, we've got Conway. There's a nice castle and things over there. Loads to see in North Wales. We could only afford to go to North Wales from Liverpool in the 60s and the 70s when we were young. So I think my granny's sister had a cottage there. And that was it, that was where we went for our holidays. It took all day to get there in the car, believe it or not. This was days before they built motorways. You had to go through all the back streets. Oh, it was a massive thing going to Wales. So you go into another country. And it's another country, Wales. So where will we go? We'll go to Llandudno. Yeah, I'll fly to Llandudno and we'll stop there. Then we can do a short trip to Conway. And obviously, you know, to drive to North Wales, you've got to go right down to the far end of this estuary to drive around, you know, Chester, somewhere like that. And then drive all the way back up the coastline. There's Flint, that's a castle. Flint Castle's over there. If you're into medieval castles from the days of Edward Longshanks, I mean, this is his stomping ground. This is where he came to build his castles and oppress the Welsh. In fact, it was him that thought up the Prince of Wales, because for some reason the King of Wales was always called the Prince of Wales. He was never called the King. And so when Longshanks conquered Wales, he said, well, my son's going to be the Prince of Wales. So Carnarvon Castle, he built, or had it built, Carnarvon Castle. And he came out on the balcony with his baby prince and said, this boy is the new Prince of Wales. And he's the heir to the throne of England. So ever since then, the heir to the throne of England has been crowned the Prince of Wales at Carnarvon Castle. And we're going to go there, not on this flight. I'm going to go to Llandudno on this flight, but I'll work my way around there and I'll introduce you and give a bit of a chat along the way. If you're interested, if you're not interested, just skip to something else. But it's amazing the way, you know, I can tour the whole country. I downloaded England. There's England North, England South, and there's Scotland. Scotland is fantastic, and it's all done from Google Earth and Mesh. Mesh is the terrain is all correct. Synthetic vision, you know, this is what they use in aeroplanes these days. When you're flying along and you can't see where you're going because of the clouds, you can see the screen and you're looking at a computer generated images of all the terrain. It's called synthetic vision. You can actually see the runway. You can actually land it like on a computer. Actually sitting in the real plane. So I mean, you know, the two are coming closer and closer together. I think flying in VR. I mean, I am sat in the cockpit looking down, and we've got no legs. But I mean, this is exactly what it's like to look around in the helicopter, and it's so realistic. I'd say it's 80%, 85% as good as the real thing, but because it's free, that probably makes it better. The scenery can only get better, can't it? And they're putting in features like castles and things and places you want to go and visit. This is the actual road that we'd come along when we were going to Wales. Longshanks built a lot of castles. People say, oh, the Welsh castles, but they were English castles that were there to oppress the Welsh. Keep them all in line. There's one behind us, Flint, that's on the coast. There's another one on this river, we're just approaching a river, an estuary going inland, that's called Rhuddland. That's another ruin. That's a fabulous castle though, really gorgeous. I love going around all these old ruins. I might show you that one actually. Rhuddlan Castle. I mean, I remember my dad had an old Viva, and I mean the really old boxy shaped Viva, and he later got a Morris 1100. You know, so coming on holiday with the car packed like that, you know, it'd take ages, wouldn't it? Which is only marginally better than a Mini. Bit more room, but the same thing virtually. Right. So I'll take a little detour on my way to Llandudno, and I'll show you Rhuddlan Castle. I'm really impressed because we could land at Rhuddlan actually and do the next leg to Llandudno. See, I'm making it up as I go along. There's nothing written in stone. So we're running along the coast of North Wales now in a westerly direction. Until we get to the river, then I'll take a left at the river, follow the river down, because one of Longshanks, Edward I Longshanks, the guy who killed Mel Gibson in the film Braveheart, right? One of his plans was that the castles can be resupplied from the sea. You know, if they have the siege, you know, the army all the way around, you can't get in to give more stocks of supplies and food and ammunition and things to the soldiers inside, so put reinforcements in there. But if they could be resupplied from the sea, that was an important factor in his mind, and it was actually a genius idea for the time, because the boats could get in, even being fired at with arrows and things, they could get in. So he built everything. All his castles were built on the side of the water. There's one famous one, Harlech. The sea's gone out. Well, it was 1,000 years ago nearly, so it's miles from the sea now, but you could see where the sea came right up to the base of the castle at one time. Well, I'll show you that. That'll be on our tour. This is the river, so he could supply his castle if it was under siege. Ships would have to come down the river. And the castle's down there somewhere on the left. Rhuddlan. Like I say, you can look it up on Google Earth, click on it, go there in VR. Use Oculus Quest 2 in VR. That is awesome. I did the Angel Falls the other day. Some guy had a drone helicopter and with a 360 camera on there, and you're like this. You're looking around. Wow, highest waterfall in the world. Absolutely unbelievable, astonishing. Okay, so I'm gonna head south now down this river. We'll start slowing down because we'll have a castle up ahead of us soon. Reduce power, raise the nose, bit of rudder. Yeah, okay, I'll land here. That's probably the best bet. And we'll do Llandudno next. So we're looking for a marvellous old castle on the left hand side of the river. He says, I'm sure it was here last time I came here. Oh, there it is, there it is. Now, last time I came here, it wasn't even open to the public. It just sat there, just a ruin over signs around it saying, "Do not come in, it's dangerous." So we just found our way in. A lot of these castles have got big holes in the walls. Can you see that? That was probably something to do with the English Civil War when the royalists were holding out in these castles. The Cromwells came along and blew the walls up and murdered everyone and held them prisoner or whatever, and that was the end of that. So they were slighted. They slighted the castles so that the royals couldn't use them again. It's a shame really, but it's an interesting piece of history still. There we go, Rhuddlan Castle. This is the town of Rhuddlan, by the way, obviously. So, to pick somewhere to land. It's much, much better than this in real world, but this gives you a very good idea of what it looks like. So I'm going to land on the grass just here. If you're in out of the wind direction, point towards the sea, because the wind usually comes in off the sea. Okay. Sliding. Put it on the road. Whoa. So twitchy, this helicopter. Landing on uneven ground. Can you imagine if you did this for real, all the complaints you get from the houses? You blew all the tiles off my roof, you bastard. I was going to repair my roof. Send it to the Queen. To a helicopter. Lampposts, bane of my life. Okay, we'll do the road. More even, a bit more solid. There we go. Hope there's no cars coming. Right. There we are. Rhuddlan Castle in North Wales. Built by Edward Longshanks himself.